Hi everyone. So in the previous lecture with regard to the winding up chapter, we started with it, introduced, all the basic aspects are completed. Who can file a petition, what are the modes of winding up, who can file a petition, grounds for filing a winding up petition, all these concepts are completed in the previous session. So in this particular session we are going to start with another set of 10 to 15 sections we are going to complete now. So next lecture will complete another 15 sections, last lecture will complete the balance portion. So as I already said, in 4 different parts we are going to complete, okay, this particular chapter called as winding up. Okay, now let us go and start with the second part of our discussion, directions for filing the statement of affairs. Okay, first one need to understand what is this statement of affairs. Okay, first thing we need to understand, whenever you file a petition, okay, whenever you file a petition for winding up of a particular company, company has to file, okay, company has to file its objections. Company has to file its objections. Why objections? Some person has made a application or a petition to the tribunal asking for the winding up of your company. If you are not the applicant, won't you have objections? They are trying to kill your company. You might have your own objections or not. Therefore, if applicant is, that means the petition for winding up before the tribunal is made by any person other than company. If company itself makes a petition, why objections will be there? If company is not the petitioner, let the petitioner be a contributory or a group of contributories, or it can be ROC, or it can be person authorized by central government, or it can be a state government or central government. If petitioner is not being a company, who is filing a petition for winding up of a company, won't you have objections? They are trying to kill your company. Therefore, company has to file a document called as a objections document. Which document? Objections document. Okay, that objection document should be attached to statement of affairs. Which affairs? Statement of affairs. The statement of affairs will be there. To that statement of affairs you have to attach objections document. Okay, how many days time? Winding up order is passed today na? Within 30 days from the date of passing a winding up order, you need to file SOA. What do you need to file? SOA. To that SOA, attachment should be objections. Okay, and all these are applicable if the petitioner is other than company. If the petitioner itself is company, no concept of objections will come. Okay, so sir, what do you mean by petitioner being a company? If the company is passing a special resolution and applying itself for winding up, in such a situation, this is not applicable. If it is other than company being a petitioner, section will apply. Okay, and it should be filed within 30 days. What you need to file? Statement of affairs. Now the doubt will come, sir, what do you mean by statement of affairs? It is not defined anywhere in the Companies Act. That's the funniest part. It is not defined. Then what it will be containing? Simply this particular statement of affairs is something similar to information memorandum under insolvency code. Under IBC 2016 we have a concept called as a information memorandum. There is a section called as a information memorandum. What is information memorandum? Information memorandum contains the assets and liabilities details of that particular company. Similarly, state of affairs documentation will contain the details of all your assets, details of all your liabilities, your leasehold properties, your outside India held properties. In a tabular format, we need to prepare a statement and produce before the tribunal. That statement is called as a statement of affairs, such that it will be helpful to quantify whether assets are in excess of liabilities or assets are far in deficit to the liabilities, whether this particular company need to pay something in return to the debts or surplus assets are there. To check that, I will issue a statement of affairs. On that, this section is drafted. Clear everyone? So read. Where a petition for winding up is filed before a person by any person other than the company. the tribunal shall, if satisfied that prima facie case of winding up of a company is made out, by an order direct the company to file its objections along with the statement of affairs within 30 days of the order. Within 30 days of order, we need to file what? Statement of affairs. I told you na, winding up chapter la, let's simplify from the examinations point of view and try to understand. Simply, statement of affairs section, how to simplify this? First one is petitioner other than company. Okay, petitioner other than company. Winding up order passed. Okay, winding up order passed. Company need to file to the tribunal, or let's write down NCLT, statement of affairs and objections (30 days of order). Okay, write down these 3 points. Instead of reading sentences together, let's simplify and make our life simple. So please write down petitioner other than company, point number 1. Second one, winding up order is passed. Number 2, company makes an application. Don't write everything, write arrow mark. That company arrow mark NCLT means what? Company has to file with NCLT. What it has to file? Statement of affairs and any objections within how many days? 30 days of the order passed. Am I clear, everyone? Okay. Complete this. Make it fast, everyone. So petitioner other than company, winding up order is passed. Company file with NCLT a statement of affairs with objections within 30 days of the order date. So company didn't file statement of affairs and objections. In that case, what will happen? Company didn't provide any statement of affairs and it didn't attach any objections. What will happen? What will happen is company assets and liabilities details will not come to the notice of the tribunal. It's the biggest blunder that you can do. When authority is asking you to file the details of your assets and liabilities, if you are not obeying, it's a contempt of court. Court to dhikkarana. In that case, what I have to do? So the actions that the Companies Act tribunal will take is, first thing, there are 2 liabilities. How many? 2 liabilities for not filing the statement of affairs, for concealing your assets and liabilities details. The first and foremost punishment that I give you is, if you don't file the statement of affairs within the time limit provided by the act, then company cannot oppose the winding up. That means whenever court passes a final winding up order, you have a right to file an appeal against the commencement of winding up order. That means you can appeal that particular winding up order before a higher court like NCLAT. Am I clear or not? If you don't file statement of affairs to the tribunal within the time limit, your right to oppose the petition, will be forfeited. Forfeited means what? Gone. Your right to oppose the petition on winding up will be gone. You can't oppose the applicant filing a petition. Am I clear? That means your right to counter the other party in the court of law will be gone if you are not obeying to the state of affairs order properly. Am I clear or not, everyone? That means your right to oppose the particular winding up petition will be lost if you don't file the statement of affairs within the time limit provided by the act. Second one, directors and officers who are responsible to file that and who didn't file shall also be liable for a punishment. Imprisonment is there, and it will also get attached with some fine. That means it is a imprisonment or fine or both case. This is the answer. Every time I tell you imprisonments, penalties, you need to remember. I can't explain all those things. Am I clear? 25,000, okay, 25,000 or 5 lakh or 6 months imprisonment. What interpretation you will get because of that? Remember. If you remember, you can remember. Okay, no issue. Main point that I want to explain in this connection is the first thing. Okay, I think you are writing the summary notes na? In this summary, add another point. Failure consequences. can't oppose winding up petition later, liable for imprisonment or fine or both. Liable for imprisonment or fine or both. At the time of examinations, instead of reading half page answer, read this. It will be given for 3 marks or 4 marks in exam. Write down all the 4 points in an elaborated way. These keywords you need to elaborate. First one, what is the first keyword? If the petitioner is other than a company making a application to the tribunal and the tribunal prima facie passed a winding up order, the company has to file with NCLT a statement of affairs along with the objections within 30 days from the date of passing a winding up order, failure of which the power of a company to oppose the petition for winding up is lost, and further the directors and officers shall be liable for a fine or imprisonment or both. 4 marks. Next issue. Company liquidators and their appointments. I told you very clearly yesterday what is the meaning of a provisional liquidator, company liquidator, official liquidators. I told you na, official liquidators details are available on IBC website as well in IBBI. The details are available. From that you need to select a party. That person will be called as a liquidator for that company. That will be further divided into normal 2 parts. First one is a provisional liquidator. Second one is a company liquidator. Limited purpose, limited areas, limited time provisional. Extraordinary time period till the completion of winding up proceeding is a company liquidator. Am I clear or not, everyone? Basics like how many assets are there, how much liability is there, whether assets are crossing liabilities, is there any other chance other than winding up, all these are looked out by the provisional liquidator. Provisional liquidator will go out if the official liquidator, company liquidator comes in. It is like IRP and RP relationship in the insolvency code. Am I clear, everyone? So basics will be looked after by provisional, continuation and other extraordinary things will be done by company liquidator. This is all said in the previous lecture already. Now let us see how law is drafting liquidators concept. First let us read this. For the purposes of winding up of a company by the tribunal at the time of passing of an order of winding up shall appoint an official liquidator or a liquidator from the panel maintained under subsection 2 of the subsection 2 as a company liquidator. Shall appoint a official liquidator, okay, or a liquidator from the panel. Panel is maintained by insolvency code. I already said na. So from the insolvency code you can see that means either provisional liquidator or company liquidator shall be appointed by the tribunal among as the insolvency professionals registered under insolvency and bankruptcy code. That means under IBC if you are an insolvency professional you are also a liquidator cadre. That means companies can appoint you as a liquidator. Next. So you may get a doubt, sir, yesterday you said official liquidator will be bifurcated into 2 parts, provisional and this particular company, but here he is using the word official liquidator or liquidator from the panel. Really listen, official liquidators are found in MCA website, okay. In reality insolvency code does not have liquidators. I will deem that insolvency professionals are liquidators. Therefore, IBC from there if you select a party, he will become either a company liquidator or a provisional liquidator. But you cannot call him as an official liquidator because he is not officially a liquidator position directly appointed by MCA. Am I clear? So therefore, for understanding sake, I said that yesterday, but in reality, liquidator 2 types will be there. One is a provisional, one is a company. Provisional is for a temporary period of time, temporary purposes or limited purposes, etc. Company liquidator continue till winding up of a company. Clear? That is same. Concept is same. Next. Situation if the provisional liquidator is appointed. Generally provisional liquidator will have restricted powers. But if no restriction is provided on his powers at the time of appointment, he will get all the powers of a normal liquidator. So where a provisional liquidator is appointed by the tribunal may limit or restrict his powers by order appointing him or by subsequent order. But otherwise, if no restrictions are given, he shall have same powers as a liquidator. Liquidator means which liquidator? Normal company liquidator. Am I clear? Let's write the summary after. Duties attached. Duties attached. Sir, obvious one duty is liquidator should not have any conflict of interest with the company. That means I'm an employee in a company. If I become liquidator in that company, how can I discharge my functions properly? Some soft corner will be there or not. Independence will be lost. So therefore, they have to give declaration within 7 days from the date of their appointment. Within how many days? 7 days from the date of their appointment. So on appointment as a provisional liquidator or company liquidator, such a liquidator shall file a declaration within 7 days from the date of appointment, prescribed from leave off, disclosing conflict of interest or lack of independence in respect of his appointment, if any, with the tribunal. And such obligation shall continue throughout the term of appointment. That means he should not get any conflict of interest. He should not lose his independence at any time during the term of that appointment as a provisional liquidator or company liquidator. Write down the notes. Simplify this. Keep the heading company liquidators and their appointments. Keep the heading. So look at the notes. Like simplified notes. Selection will be made through official liquidator under MCA or liquidator through IBC. In both cases, either provisional or company liquidator. If you are appointed as a provisional liquidator, NCLT may impose restrictions or it may give all powers of a company liquidator. In both cases, they have to file a declaration within 7 days of no conflict of interest and no loss of independence. Okay. Write down. Copy down the notes. Notes will help you a lot. If you don't write, definitely you will feel very bad at the time of preparation stage. Please copy down. Completed. By the way, I forgot to tell one thing. Here in this statement of affairs concept, you have written 4 points. Now please write down a note point. At least insert somewhere in your notes, either in the material or in your notes. Sorry, I forgot to tell that. Okay, write down there. Notes. Notes. Every section I am putting some note points. Very important note points. Okay, these are taken out from some important provisos and MCA clarifications itself. So add 2 note points. Note 1. Note 1. Write down. Tribunal may allow extension of 30 days in special cases. Tribunal may provide extension for another 30 days or 30 days. May provide extension for 30 days in special cases. Generally you need to file here. If you can observe, you need to file this within 30 days. It can extend by another 30 days if circumstances or extraordinary cases has come because of which you have committed a delay in that case. Okay, note point 1. Note point 2, mark it important, this note point. It was also given in one of the past exams. Note point 2, very very important. Okay, write down. In some cases, tribunal may also direct. Optional only. That's why in some cases I am using the word. In some cases, tribunal may also direct the petitioner may direct the petitioner to deposit a security amount, deposit a security amount which may be considered reasonable, which may be considered reasonable, which may be considered reasonable. What do you mean by that? How much security to be collected is not defined in the act, like investigation chapter. In investigation chapter, if you look into section 214, there they will tell you how to deposit this much security deposit. Amounts are given on the base of turnover. Here not there. How much it is reasonable, they will look into and they will levy the security value. Okay, that's second point. Okay, there is one past exam question on this. Let me first give you the viewpoint on how the examination question was drafted. Okay, see here. Explain the provisions of Companies Act 2013 relating to preparation and filing of statement of affairs in case of winding up of a company by tribunal with regard to the following aspects. Who is required to prepare and file statement of affairs, and whether costs and expenses incurred in preparing SA means statement of affairs, are recoverable. Contents of SA statement of affairs and the period within which the same is required to be submitted and to whom. Also state about the consequences of delay in filing the statement of affairs and up to what period the same is allowed. Everything inside this topic was asked in examination for 5 marks. For how many marks? 5 marks. I repeat the question for you for another time. Listen. First thing, he is asking to answer 2 questions. Who are required to file the statement of affairs, and whether costs and expenses incurred are recoverable. Okay, it is recoverable. That's a question 1. Question number 2 is what is the period within which it is to be submitted, and to whom you have to submit. Is there any time delay is there? What are the consequences, and what is the large time limit extension that was given? Everything was asked in exam. So how to answer this query? So the question that was given concentrates on all the areas that was set in this particular section. Statement of affairs, who need to file, is the first question. Okay, so it should be filed by whom? It should be filed by the company. Am I clear or not? It should be filed by the company. Company has to file. Time limit was asked. What is the time limit? 30 days. Extension possible, not possible? Extension is possible. First one, company has to file. 30 days point was also asked. To whom you will file is another question asked. To the tribunal. And this 30 days is extendable. Yes, maximum in extraordinary cases, if you can show, they will extend by a further period of 30 days. And the security payment you need to make, yes, it will be recovered from the particular person making the petition, and that will be as reasonable as possible by the tribunal. It will charge the security cost. Everything was asked. And lastly, what if the statement of affairs is not properly filed? Penalty is also asked. That's all. Answer completed. So anyway, we completed the company liquidator concept as well, and declaration within 7 days from the date of appointment. Next issue. Removal and replacement of a liquidator. Okay, either provisional liquidator or company liquidator. In these cases, they will be removed. Once removed, they will be replaced by another party. Am I clear? So in what cases? They are liable for a misconduct or a fraud or misfeasance, professional incompetence or failure to exercise due care and diligence in performance of the powers and functions, inability to act as a provisional liquidator or company liquidator, conflict of interest came, or independence lost during the tenure. You need to give a declaration or not. At the time of appointment, you don't have any conflict or interest. You don't have any kind of independence loose. But after getting appointed, some sort of benefits he is getting out of it. He lost his interest. He has got a conflict of interest, and he has a lack of independence. Misconduct. Second one, a fraud or misfeasance. Misfeasance. Feasance is a word that was taken from a word called as a feasible. Feasible means acceptable. Misfeasance means a non-acceptable behavior as a liquidator. Or he is doing fraud. Provisional liquidator came to investigate frauds. He is also involved in the fraud. He is also doing the frauds in the light of the liquidation. At the time of liquidation, all the assets are kept in the custody of liquidators. He is misusing it. Okay, maybe you know or not, at the time of liquidation, the king of the company will be the liquidator. King of the company will be liquidator. Liquidator will take the custody of all the assets and properties. At the time he is having the possession of the assets, he may do some fraud or not. If that be the case, he will be removed. Clear, everyone? So professional incompetence. Here I am not doing any fraud. No misconduct. No misconduct. Sir, what is misconduct? You didn't explain that. Sir, misconduct we can understand from the code of conduct of liquidators provided by MCA or by IBC. In IBC, though not applicable for our syllabus, there is a concept called as code of conduct to the insolvency professionals. If you are countervening that particular thing, that means if you are deviating from the basic acceptable code of conduct, then it will be called as a misconduct. Am I clear or not? Misconduct does not mean normal general meaning of misconduct. It should be taken from the rules of misconduct. Clear? So fraud, misfeasance, professional incompetence. In this case, I am not committing any misconduct. I am not doing any fraud or misfeasance. But I am not worthy for a liquidator position. That means I couldn't exercise proper functions. Okay. Minimum care also I am not taking. Negligence. Okay. Or professional incompetence. You are a qualified chartered accountant, but you don't know what is a tax audit. Am I clear or not? Many people will be there, na? You qualify chartered accountants, it does not mean you know everything. Many chartered accountants are there, okay, are already qualified, but they don't know how to file their income tax return itself. So really it will be there. You can test with many persons who are working in companies. Who are working in the companies for a so long time, na? 5-6 years, if you work in a company as an internal auditor or any one particular area, they will allot to you. At that time, if you ask him to file a GST return, or if you ask him to file a charge document in Companies Act, or if you ask him to file his own income tax return, he will be incompetent. That incompetence. You are a qualified liquidator, but you don't have a good experience, or you have negligence with you. Minimum care and diligence. Diligence means doing after a logical thinking. That is also not there. What is good, what is bad is not even considered by you. Negligence is clearly visible. I will remove you as a liquidator. Clear? Inability to act as a provisional liquidator or company liquidator. Disqualifications under IBC or disqualifications under the rules of MCA, then you will be inable. Simply I can call it as a disqualifications. What is that? Disqualification. Last one. Conflict of interest or lack of independence in such case, sections will get attracted, you will be removed. Next issue sir. Okay. Removed, sir. Okay, what will happen if removed? It may be death, it may be resignation, own resignation, it may be removal, whatever I said. Death, gone. Okay, resignation, he resigned voluntarily, not because of misconduct will be removed, not resign. I resign myself, I don't want to continue as a liquidator. Who? Either provisional liquidator or as the case may be company liquidator. If office of a provisional liquidator or a company liquidator has become vacant due to death, resignation, removal, in such case whatever the work he is doing, that will be transferred or assigned to another company liquidator. Okay, listen carefully. If a provisional liquidator office become vacant, provisional liquidator functions will also get transferred to existing company liquidator. If company liquidator work is if the company liquidator place become vacant, it will be transferred to another company liquidator. Observe the sentence. In the event of death, resignation, removal of a provisional liquidator, or as the case may be company liquidator, the tribunal may transfer work assigned to him or it to another company liquidator for the reasons recorded in writing. That means anyway it will be transferred to a company liquidator. Provisional liquidator died, provisional liquidator resigned, provisional liquidator removed, transfer his functions to existing company liquidator. Company liquidator died, resigned, removal, transferred to another company liquidator. Am I clear or not? That means anyway one thing is clear. Whenever office become vacant, company liquidator has to take the load of the work what he has done. Am I clear? Next, because of provisional liquidator or company liquidator, if any loss or damage is caused, you said na, misconduct, fraud, misfeasance, all these things are there, or fail to exercise due diligence, etc. Because of that, if any loss is caused to the company, what will be done? Recover such loss or damage from the liquidator. Answer completed. Simple way of understanding. Okay, where the tribunal is of opinion that the liquidator is responsible for causing any loss or damage to the company due to fraud, misfeasance, failure to exercise due diligence in performance of his function. Why all these things? Remember first two grounds of removal. One is a fraud and misfeasance. Second one is a failure to exercise due diligence and care. In these two cases, if any loss is caused, recover the loss. That's all. Clear, everyone? Next, write down the summary for this. Write down the summary. Totally, this particular section, okay, which section? Section number 276. Okay, removal and replacement. Liquidator na, there will be totally 3 branches. First branch will be talking about grounds. Second branch, filling. Third branch, liability. Okay, first, what are the grounds? Misconduct. Write down the short forms. Misconduct, fraud, professional incompetence, or failure to exercise care and diligence. Failure to exercise care and diligence. Failure to exercise care and diligence. These are the points that we completed. Okay, another 2 points are there. Write down inability, in the brackets you can write disqualification, and last one is conflict of interest or loss of independence. Filling, company liquidator to fill. Liability, loss due to fraud or misfeasance or no care and diligence. Recovery of loss. Simplify and write down. Examinations time you will not get a time to read this chapter completely. At the time of discussion itself, if you write the notes simplified, then it will help you at the time of exams. So next section, section number 277, intimation to the company liquidator, provisional liquidator and the registrar. So this section is important for the exams. Mark it, very important. In this part of section may not be asked, but there is a concept called as a winding up committee that can be asked for 2 marks or 3 marks. Okay, very very important section for the exam. It was not asked 5 times 6 times in exam, not even asked in exam till date, but still a chance is there that it can come in exam. So therefore that's why. So intimation to company liquidator, first thing, who will intimate? Tribunal will intimate. Intimate whom? Company liquidator, or if there is a provisional liquidator, to him and to the registrar. What it will intimate? Intimate that I have passed a winding up order. Intimate I have passed a winding up order. I will not intimate that you are appointed. I will intimate, hello provisional liquidator, hello company liquidator, winding up order is passed. That means I have passed a winding up order. Am I clear? Intimate them about passing a winding up order. Your duties will more and more increase from today, because you have to settle all the liabilities, you have to finalize the list of creditors and contributories, you have to sell the assets of the company. Am I clear or not? You have many other things to do, like recovery of properties, statement of affairs has to be examined. These type of duties are entrusted or not, that to intimate them. First thing, within 7 days of passing a winding up order, I will inform. Inform whom? Inform company liquidator, inform provisional liquidator if any, and the registrar I will intimate within 7 days. Okay. I will also intimate to whom? ROC. ROC has to do three duties upon receiving the notice of winding up. What are those? First, in the records of the company, ROC will maintain the record of all the companies or not. In that record, write there clearly that this company is in winding up, in the process of winding up. Second one, notify about winding up in the official gazette of that concerned state. If the company is in Hyderabad, Telangana state ROC has to notify in official gazette that this company is in winding up, such that no person will enter into contract with that company from that date. If that company by God's grace is a listed company, he shall also intimate the recognized stock exchanges where the securities are listed. Clear? No need to intimate to SEBI. SEBI intimation is not required. Stock exchanges intimation is mandatory. Okay. First, let us recompile everything whatever we discussed. See here. Intimation by whom? Tribunal. Intimation to whom? Company liquidator or provisional liquidator and ROC. If the intimation is, and within what time? 7 days of passing a winding up order, not 7 days of appointment of company liquidator. 7 days of passing a winding up order. Intimate whom? These three persons. Okay. Intimate about what? Intimate that winding up order is passed. That is implied in the section itself. It will not be said explicitly. What you need to intimate within 7 days of passing winding up order means what you will intimate about winding up order. So what are the duties of ROC specially with regard to receipt of winding up order? Necessary entries in the records of the company, notify in official gazette, inform stock exchanges in case of a listed company. Once you pass a winding up order, from the date, automatically all the employees and workmen, they will be dismissed. That means the winding up order shall be deemed to be notice of discharge to the officers, employees and workmen. I will ask a question, answer. Today I passed a winding up order. Okay. Today I passed a winding up order. Once I pass today, with immediate effect, the office of officers, employees and workmen shall be coming to an end. Yes or no? Wrong. I am not telling their office will come to end. Separately, I need not issue notice of dismissal to each and every officer, employee and workman. That is the meaning. That means if you pass a winding up order, office will not come to end. It shall be deemed to be individual notices sent to all these people. That means we are sending notice, I am going to dismiss you. When I will dismiss? On the date of liquidation. Am I clear? Till the date you will be workman only. Till the date you are employee only. Till the date you are officer only. But you need not work in the company, because I have given you a notice of discharge. Notice of what? Discharge. That means winding up order will work like a individual notices to each and every party. We will give dismissal order to the employees generally, if they don't work properly. Like that I am giving a winding up order. It will be as equivalent as giving individual notices to all the officers and employees. Ante, this shall be deemed to be notice అన్నాడు కానీ winding up order shall be deemed, sorry, on the date of passing a winding up order the office of officers, employees and workmen shall come to an end. Like that the lawmaker didn't discuss. This is where you can commit the mistakes in exam. Okay, it shall be deemed to be a notice of discharge. That means, what do you mean by that? Separately again you need not give another discharge notice. I am going to dismiss you, I am going to dismiss you. Like that you need not again write. This shall be deemed to be a notice of discharge. Clear everyone? Next issue. Winding up order passed, winding up procedure starts. Progress of winding up procedure need to be assisted and looked into. That means winding up contains many issues here. Many issues. What issues? I have to take over the assets. Statement of affairs you prepared. Assets and liabilities. I need to recheck or not, reconcile or not. I have to take over the asset. Who has to take over? Company liquidator has to take over the asset. Yes. Examination of statement of affairs has to be done. Yes. If another person is holding the assets and properties of my company, from that person I have to recover or not. Directors and key persons of the company will generally take the properties of company. From them I have to recover the properties or not. Yes. I have to check the audited accounts and audited reports or not. Yes. I have to sell the assets or not. Yes. Who are the creditors and who are the contributories? I need to divide the list or not. I have to divide the list into contributories and creditors for a reason that I have to take from contributory, I have to give to the creditors. That means I need to know the list of creditors and contributories or not. Finalization of list. And in compromises arrangement chapter, if you can remember, first section in compromise, section 230, who can make an application to tribunal for compromise? Company, creditors, members or liquidator at the time of winding up. At the time of winding up, liquidator can also make a complaint for compromise. Here which liquidator? Company liquidator will make an application for compromise and settlement. Okay, payment of any unpaid dividends, if any, pay them. Any other function, all these functions has to be done or not. By whom? Company liquidator. How to be done? That for that purpose, whether company liquidator is properly taking over the assets, properly examining the statement of affairs, whether recovery is properly made or not, whether sale of assets is made properly or not, whether division between creditors and contributories is made properly or not, whether there is any requirement of entering into compromise, whether there are any unpaid dividends which are required to be paid immediately. All these things to assist company liquidator and to monitor whether it is done according to the rules, a committee will be formed. That committee is called as a winding up committee. Very, very important for exam, since it is not asked till now in exam. ఈ రోజు దాకా అడగల, కానీ నాకు ఇస్తే కనుక నేను ఈ క్వశ్చన్ అడుగుతా ఫర్ 3 marks. ఓకే, winding up committee. Within what time we need to form that winding up committee? 3 weeks from the date of passing winding up order. We need to form a winding up committee. Okay, purpose is to assist and monitor the progress of liquidation proceeding. Okay, who will be there inside? Official liquidator, first party in winding up committee. Hey, not company liquidator, not provisional liquidator. Company liquidator will carry on liquidation process. If I am there in the winding up committee, how can I know the wrongs done by me? Self review threat will come, like auditor. Auditor cannot become internal auditor and stat auditor. I make clear. Likewise, company liquidator will not become the winding up committee member. Official liquidator will be there in NCLT. That person will come. Next, nominee to the secured creditors. All the secured creditors of the company will appoint one representative. He is a nominee. Like that, tribunal will also nominate one professional, like chartered accountants, company secretaries, to look over whether it is carried on according to Companies Act and other regulations. A professional will be nominated. Now everyone tell me, who will be there in the winding up committee? 3 parties will be there. Official liquidator of NCLT, attached to NCLT, one nominee to the secured creditors, and one nominee professional nominee of a tribunal. These people will assist and monitor the winding up proceedings, and within 3 weeks from the date of passing a winding up order, this particular committee has to be formed, who will be looking after these activities which are done by company liquidator. Sir, who will call for the meetings of the winding up committee? Convened by company liquidator. Company liquidator is not the member of winding up committee, but he will call for the winding up committee meetings. Clear everyone? This is all about this particular section called as section number 277. Take a minute minute time. First read the section totally, after that I will give you the notes. Okay, now read this, make it very fast. Completed reading. Now let's go to the writing part. Let's go to the writing part. See here, this is all a chart format of understanding the same answer. Listen first, later I will give time for you to copy. Listen first, let me explain whether every point is governed in this chart or not. Instead of reading the 2 pages answer, this chart, if you remember, enough for the exams. First, D0 I made it as a winding up order date of passing a winding up order. On the date of passing a winding up order, it shall be deemed to be notice of discharge. Okay, I put a gap here to write now, such that at least you can understand the importance. It will not be deemed discharge, it is a deemed notice of discharge. Okay, winding up order shall be deemed to be deemed notice of discharge of employees, etc. Okay, D0 lo what happened? D0 winding up order passed. D0 to D7 within 7 days intimate to company liquidator, provisional liquidator and ROC. ROC immediately enter into records, notify official gazette, listed company na inform RSC. Okay, from winding up order, application by company liquidator to NCLT to form a winding up committee for the purpose of assisting and monitoring the progress of winding up. Who will be there? Official liquidator, nominee of a secured creditor, professional nominated by NCLT. Okay, and company liquidator will be the convener of winding up committee in meetings. Okay, meetings will be conducted to monitor the proceedings with respect to takeover of assets, not turnover, takeover of assets, examination of statement of affairs, review of audit reports and sale of assets, finalization of list of creditors and contributories, compromises if required, and payments of dividends, etc. Okay, please write down these notes. If you don't write the notes, I am telling you, your life will become pretty miserable at the time of preparation. I am telling you very, very seriously and clearly. Maintain the notes properly. Write down. Now, next one. If you find that a little time was only given to copy, pause the video, go back and pause the video and write down. Since it is not a Google Drive class, limit on views is not there now, you can go back and pause the video and write. Okay, next, Effect of winding up order, from this speed will be increased because no great concepts will come. Whenever some conceptual importance is coming, I will only make it slow and I will explain it 1 or 2 times again. Effect of winding up order. Listen, if you can observe the sections clearly, application or petition for winding up will be made by outsiders and as well as by the insiders. Okay, company makes an application means members will make special resolution. Members upon winding up becomes contributory, or contributories directly can make an application. Even past members can make an application for winding up, or even ROC can make. Central government can make an application or petition for winding up before the tribunal. Whoever makes a petition, but winding up will be always done in favor of 2 parties. One contributory, second one creditors. One contributory, second one creditors. That means contributories will be the persons who will contribute to the assets. Creditors will be the trustees to that particular money. They will get that money back. Am I clear? That means applicant need not be creditor, but the winding up order will be passed in favor of both contributories as well as creditors. That means if joint application is made by creditors and contributories, what would be the effect? In the same way these sections will operate. That means creditors don't have any right to make an application for winding up petition under this act. Under IBC you can make. Under winding up under Companies Act, creditors don't have any right to file a petition for winding up. Company is not defaulted. In IBC, default is most important. Here company is not defaulted in payment of debts. Can creditors make a complaint? No. But still, if winding up order is passed, that order will also favor to creditors. That means the order of winding up of a company shall operate in favor of all the creditors, even though they are not filing a petition, and all contributories of the company, as if it had been made out on a joint petition. If they would have made a joint petition, how they will be given rights? In the same way, will give the rights also to the creditors, even though they are not forming part of the petition. Okay, next. Only important answers you need to write, not all the answers. Okay, don't waste the time. So next one, stay of suits etc. on a winding up order. Okay, first one, 2 events are there. First one, winding up order. Second one, prima facie opinion to pass a winding up order. That means first one, winding up order is passed. Second one, not yet passed, but 99% chance is there it will be passed because provisional liquidator is appointed. Provisional liquidator will be appointed for many purposes, in which one of the purpose is to give a intimation to tribunal whether the grounds of winding up are in existence or not. So whenever a winding up order is passed or a provisional liquidator is appointed, in such case no new legal suit should be accepted. Pending legal suits cannot continue except with the leave of tribunal. That means if you take permit of the tribunal, then okay, or else new suits cannot be filed. Existing suits shall not be proceeded with. Am I clear? Therefore they use the common word no suit shall be commenced and no pending winding up order shall be proceeded. Am I clear? No pending cases shall be proceeded. No new suit shall be commenced. Am I clear? New thing should not be commenced. Existing should not continue. Am I clear or not? Sir, can company file a petition or can others file a petition? That means there is a misclarity. What is that misclarity? There will be a stoppage of capacity of a company to sue or capacity of others to sue company, which will be stayed. Stay order will be passed on what? Company right to sue others or others right to sue company, which will be having a stay. Both. That's why I use the word by the company or against the company. But exception is there. There are 2 exceptions. Exception is with the permit of tribunal you can. Second exception is without permission you can do if the particular suit whatever is pending or a new suit you are going to file is an appeal before Supreme Court or High Court. In that case, even tribunal can't stop you. Okay, I want the permit of tribunal. I will make an application to tribunal to sanction me the continuation of a legal suit. Okay, tribunal has to pass a judgment on your application within 60 days. See here. Events covered by 279. Winding up order or provisional liquidator appointment. Effect of event. Because of that event, what will happen? No new suits. No continuation of pending suits. but exception, two exceptions. Pending appeals before High Court and Supreme Court. Second one, any other case other than this, permit of NCLT is required. That's the exception. Disposal time by NCLT of application, 60 days from the date of application. Please copy down. I told you now, in these concepts I can't waste the time. Fastly I will go on. Please note down. So see here, next one. Jurisdiction of a tribunal. What are the powers of a tribunal? What are the powers of a tribunal? Like that you can understand. Jurisdiction means what is the competency of the tribunal. Okay. First thing, tribunal shall have a jurisdiction to entertain or dispose. Entertain or dispose. That means it can either accept or it can either reject. Okay. Any suit or proceeding by or against a company. By or against a company. Okay. First one is any suit or proceeding by or against a company. Any claim made by or against the company, including its branches. Any application made under section 233, amalgamation application. Okay, during the course of winding up, instead of going for winding up, they may propose a winding up, that winding up. Any question of priorities or any other question whatsoever, whether law or question of law or question of fact, including those relating to the assets, business, action, entitlement, privileges, benefits, duties, responsibility, obligation, in any matter arising out of or in relation to winding up of a company, whether such suit or proceeding has been instituted or is to be instituted, claim or question has arisen or arises, such application has been made or to be made, such a scheme has been submitted or is submitted before or after the order of winding up is made. Sir, I didn't understand even a single word. Simplification you need to understand. Okay, see here. Simply he want to tell this. First thing, already in the previous section itself we have seen it has a right to pass a stay and it also have a right to give exceptions or not. Same thing, what he want to tell here, tribunal has a power to entertain, jurisdiction, to accept or to dispose any suit by or against the company, by or against the company. Okay, fourth point I am merging here. That suit has been already instituted or in future it is to be instituted. Has been instituted or is to be in the future. It has a right to deal with it. That means what are the powers of tribunal? Tribunal has a power to accept a suit or to reject a suit by or against the company. Tribunal has a right to accept a claim made by a creditor or to cancel the claim made by a creditor. Creditors are telling I have to get this much of amount. They are filing a petition before tribunal. Tribunal accordingly have a right to accept or to cancel the claims made by the company against others or others making a complaint against the company. Okay, including the branch offices of that company which has been made or to be made. Application under section 233, amalgamation of certain companies. Application under 233 is made at the time of winding up order. Okay, whether it has been made or to be made, whether to accept this or not, will also be checked only by the tribunal. Will also be checked by the tribunal. Tribunal has a right to accept the application or to reject the application as well. Next one. Any question on priorities? Sir, what do you mean by priority? There will be a priority in payment of debts. First, this person should get. Next, this person should get. Third, this person should get. Who are those? We will see in section number 324, 26, 27 and so on and so forth. At that time, I will only discuss about that. That priority. Who to be paid first? On that, if any question arises, tribunal has a power to answer that question. Or any other question on how much assets are there, what businesses company carry on, what rights are there to the members and creditors, what privileges are provided to the contributories and creditors, what obligations and responsibilities everyone will have. Every question you raise, either from the law or from the facts of the case in relation to winding up, tribunal has a right to answer. Clear everyone? Please write down. Please make a note. Start writing. That means simply in one sentence, what he want to tell, tribunal under this particular chapter 20 winding up has every power. Suit acceptance or rejection, yes. Claim acceptance, rejection, yes. Compromise, amalgamation, acceptance, rejection, yes. And not only that, it also have a power to answer the queries. Query on what? I filed a query to the tribunal on priority of payment of debts. It will answer. Any other question, how much assets you are going to distribute, how many businesses are there, what are the values of businesses, what rights we have, every question you raise, tribunal either it may accept your question, it may dispose your question. That's the idea. Okay, so write down. Just a procedural question. Remember whatever you are writing in the chart. I am going to the next one. If you want, you can pause the video and go to the next one. Okay. Next one. Submission of a report by company liquidator. Submission of report by the company liquidator. So what is this concept of submission of report by company liquidator? Simply, company liquidator will submit. Okay. Company liquidator will submit a report. That report will contain certain details. What are those details and to whom he will submit? Let us look into. Two answers are very clear. Report will be submitted by company liquidator, not by provisional liquidator. Second one will be submitted to the tribunal. Third one, the due date within 60 days from the date of winding up order. He need to submit. What he need to submit? Let's see. When section gets attracted, where winding up order is passed or where company liquidator is appointed, in such case the company liquidator within 60 days from the order date, which order? Winding up order, submit to the tribunal a report containing following particulars. What are those particulars? See here. First one, the nature and details of the assets of company, mobile or immobile, tangible, intangible, in India or outside India, or cash or other liquid assets, or current assets, category of assets, fixed assets, all these things, nature and details of the assets, including their location, within India where it is located or outside India where it is located, having a value. Value will be valued by a registered valuer, stating separately cash in hand, cash at bank, and negotiable securities, not negotiable instruments, marketable securities. Negotiable securities means, okay, that means investments of the company. Okay, so the nature and details of the assets, including cash in hand, cash at bank, location, value, negotiable securities. Okay, details of your capital, how much capital is issued, how much is subscribed, in that how much portion is paid up. Okay, actual liabilities, contingent liabilities, that means already existing contingent liabilities of a company. Liabilities of a company. First one is talking on the asset side of the balance sheet. Second and third will be talking about the liability side of the balance sheet. Next one, we have to pay to whom? We have to pay to the creditors of the company. Yes or no? Therefore, I want the names of, addresses of, and the occupations of creditors, clearly stating whether they are secured or unsecured. Okay, secured or unsecured. Why secured, unsecured? If they are secured, I need to sell the assets and then I have to pay. To pay them, I need to know the value of that asset and value of the debt. So therefore, in case of secured, particulars of security is given along with their values. Secured. Unsecured anyway we will pay normally without selling any asset. Guarantees, if any, extended by company. Company has given any guarantee, those guarantee details. List of contributories. Who is a contributory? Already we discussed in yesterday's session. But how much liability a contributory will get attracted with, we will see in section 285 later, next session. Okay. So contributories, if already their full shares are fully paid, no liability arises. If there is any unpaid call, give the details of that unpaid amount. Clear? Intangible details clearly to give. The trademarks and intellectual properties, research and development, etc. Am I clear? And whatever are the subsisting contracts, joint ventures and collaborations of the company, details of your holding subsidiary and the legal cases pending either by the company or against the company. These details are submitted by a company liquidator to the tribunal in the form of a report. In the form of what? Report. Okay. Now I repeat once again to the concept. Who will submit the report? Company liquidator. To whom? Tribunal. Within how many days? 60 days of the winding up order. Containing the details of first to open up properly. Listen, don't see the answer. First one, asset side of the balance sheet. What will be there? Names, the nature of that particular asset. Okay, their location, value, cash balance in hand and bank, marketable securities. Liabilities side, capital issued, subscribed, paid up. Liabilities like existing liabilities, contingent liabilities. Guarantees extended by the company. Names and addresses of all the creditors, secured, unsecured, everything. Details of assets along with their value in case of secured assets. Contributory details and unpaid calls, trademarks, intellectual properties, whatever the balance ongoing contracts are there or joint ventures are there, and details of your holding subsidiary and other companies and legal suits. These are all the details. Who need to submit? Company liquidator has to submit to the tribunal. Okay. Report submitted. To whom? Tribunal. What directions tribunal will give? Second one. Directions of tribunal. The tribunal shall, on consideration of the report of the company liquidator, fix a time limit within which entire proceedings shall be completed and company be dissolved. That means if the assets are very huge asset, number of assets are there, creditors, lakhs, hundreds and thousands of creditors are there, time limit will increase. Company assets are very less, values are only book values because of no hike in that particular values, or if the creditors are only unsecured or creditors are only secured, time limit will be very limited. Am I clear? So time limit may be extended if the circumstances demand so. Okay, so it will fix a time limit within which everything, proceedings should be disposed. So proceedings means what? Proceedings means sale of assets, discharge of liabilities, and then company will be dissolved. Am I clear? So tribunal may also ask the company and tell, sell the assets, discharge all the liabilities, but don't dissolve the company. Let this company merge with another company in a going concern. Therefore, order for sale of a company as a going concern, Okay. Next, if company liquidator or central government or any person, okay, that means if any person reports to the tribunal that the fraud has been committed, what will happen? First one, whether really fraud is committed or not, I will conduct a investigation under section 210. 210 section, if you can observe clearly, first one, 210 section says that investigation will be made either on the application made by ROC or special resolution passed by the company. Third one, central government to suo motu in public interest, or tribunal on an application, central government on application made by or order made by a tribunal. That means If there are any frauds that came to limelight during the winding up process, company liquidator, after taking the statement of affairs, after looking into assets, he found that most of the assets are siphoned by the directors of the company. He want to check the cash balance in the bank and he want to verify with the bank reports. Both are not getting tallied. Internal company bank account and bank passbook are not tallying with each other. That means the cash is siphoned to some other places. If instances of fraud are brought to the notice of tribunal, tribunal will order central government to conduct investigation under section 210. Am I clear? Investigation will be completed. Report will be given back to the tribunal or not. On the basis of the report of investigation, tribunal will take a action under section 339 to 342. This will be read later. 339 to 342 will be talking about actions taken against the directors or other officers of the company if there is a fraud. So two things. If on the basis of report submitted by the company liquidator, tribunal shall pass a order for winding up and ask them to complete within a time limit the entire proceedings of liquidation and dissolve the company. It can also ask to sell the assets as a going concern. If the frauds were brought to the notice, it orders for an investigation under section 210 and investigation will be conducted by CG. Report will be sent back to the tribunal. Tribunal will take an action under sections 339 to 342. Answer completed. Clear everyone? Next. Custody of company's properties. What is this? Company liquidator, what is the purpose? All the assets and other things of the company immediately upon that particular winding up order is made. Company liquidator appointed today. Winding up order passed after 10-15 days or after 1 month or after 5 months. The day on which winding up order is passed, he shall take immediately into his custody either documents, if it is a immovable property, if it is a mobile property itself he has to take. He has to take into his custody any property or personal effects of the company and actionable claims, documentary evidences, negotiable instruments, etc. Okay, and he need to protect and preserve. He should not sell directly. He need to protect and preserve the properties of the company. Where winding up order has been made, company liquidator shall, on the order of tribunal, forthwith. What do you mean by forthwith? Immediately take into his or its custody the control of all the property, effects and actionable claims to which company is or appears to entitled, and take such steps as may be necessary. It includes a sale, etc. Protect and preserve the properties for maximization of their value. Okay. Simply in one sentence, company liquidator has to take the custody of all the assets and properties, preserve and protect them. Okay. This is the first point he want to tell here. So next one. First one, he will have custody. Who will have custody? Company liquidator. If company liquidator is having a custody, it is deemed that it is in the custody of tribunal itself. That means, though physically the documents and other properties are held by the company liquidator, it shall have control also by the tribunal. That means the tribunal can have all the rights to sell the assets or order to sell the assets or to take any action against those assets and properties. That means company liquidator physically will go and take the custody of documents and assets. Am I clear? That does not mean the tribunal don't have a right over those assets. Notwithstanding anything contained in subsection number 1, all properties and effects of the company shall be deemed to be in the custody. Why the word deemed is used? Really it is not in my custody. It is really in the custody of company liquidator. But if company liquidator is having the control and custody over the assets of the company, it is deemed that it is also in my hands. That means whenever tribunal want to take any action on those assets, company liquidator has to give to the tribunal. Next one. If winding up order is passed, don't read that, don't read, first listen. If winding up order is passed, okay, company liquidator has to take the custody of all the assets. He came to know that some assets are kept as a security with the bankers. Some assets are kept as a security with the debenture trustee. Debenture trustee will have security or not. Okay, some assets are there with the employees of the company. Some assets are there in the hands of the contributories. Some assets are there in the hands of the directors of a company or officers of a company. In such a case, technically in the books of accounts on the assets side, companies are having the assets, but physically those assets are not in the hands of company. It is in the hands of debenture trustee, bankers, receivers, contributory, officers, employees, directors. These people are holding physically those assets. Am I clear or not? Cashier of a company will be there. He's an employee. He's holding the cash of the company. Cash is there in the books. Okay, cash in hand, 1 lakh is there. But that 1 lakh is in the hands of the cashier. In that case, the tribunal will order those people, either trustee or banker or receiver or contributory or officer or employee, to pay or deliver or surrender back those properties to the company liquidator, and company liquidator has to take into him custody. Please read. On application by the company liquidator or otherwise, tribunal may at any time after making the winding up order require any contributory for the time being on the list of contributory, and any trustee, receiver, banker, agent, officer, any other employee of the company to pay, surrender, deliver or surrender or transfer forthwith, immediately or within such time, to the company liquidator any money, property, books and papers in his custody. Simply, if others are physically holding any properties, books, papers, money, assets, etc., they have to give back to the company liquidator, and company liquidator will take them into the custody. Clear, everyone? Next issue. Promoters, directors to cooperate with the company liquidator. Question itself is having an answer in it. Simply, during the course of winding up orders have been passed, company liquidator will come to the company and want to discharge his functions or not. In discharge of his functions and duties, promoters, directors, etc. he used, means officers and employees who is in the employment of the company shall extend full cooperation to company liquidator. I ask the details of assets. He has to give. I ask the details of the auditor's report. Finance manager has to give. I want the details of your company's attendance registers, etc. You have to give. That means every promoter, director, officers, employees should cooperate with the company liquidator, or else you will be liable for this punishment. Punishments I don't want to discuss. You read. Okay, first read 288 section 17th question. Submission of periodical reports to the tribunal. Company liquidator shall make periodical reports to the tribunal, and in any case make a report at the end of each quarter with respect to the progress of winding up. That means to what extent the procedures are completed. Have you sold the assets? Okay, have you discharged any creditor? Like that, the progress, to what extent it was progress, you need to detail and send in the form of a report. Am I clear or not? Next, advisory committee, another very important section for the exam, and this question was already asked twice in the examination. Very important. Next concept, advisory committee, section number 287. Sir, already we completed, sir, that we completed winding up committee. Winding up committee is formed for what purpose? Winding up committee is formed in order to assist company liquidator during the course of liquidation with regard to how to sell the assets, all these things. Advisory committee name itself is telling it is not to assist, to give advices. To give advices. Advices to whom? Company liquidator. Company liquidator. And not just advices, company liquidator to discharge their functions properly, or to check whether he is selling the assets properly. First they need to know what assets are there in the company. Am I clear? So therefore, advisory committee really have a right to inspect the books, inspect the documents, inspect the properties, inspect the assets of the company, and check whether really company liquidator is working according to the provisions of this act or not. Am I clear? So main thing is inspection powers will be there to advisory committee. On the basis of inspection done, they will give advice. Advice need not be accepted by company liquidator. Nothing in this chapter will tell advices given has to be taken up for consideration. They may give an advice. Sir, we inspected the books of accounts. This asset value as per the valuation report is around 100 crores. First, if you sell this asset, we can get more value. Like that, they can give advices. They cannot compel company liquidator to follow their advice. Advice is something which is given to follow. If you follow, if you don't follow, it doesn't make any difference. So the tribunal may, while passing an order, and another thing, forming advisory committee is optional, it's not mandatory. Tribunal may, while passing a winding up order of a company, direct that there shall be advisory committee to advise company liquidator. Not only giving advices, report to the tribunal on such matters. Okay, which matters? Such matters as tribunal may direct. According to company it will change. Am I clear? So two powers are there. Advise the company liquidator and reporting powers are also there. Who will be there inside advisory committee? Creditors, contributories and such other persons as may be determined by the tribunal will be there. Professionals may come. Okay, so the number shall not exceed 12. Number shall not exceed 12. Company liquidator shall convene the meetings. Like winding up committee, he will be the convener of the meetings. Okay, why meetings will be conducted? Who will form part of the committee? Creditors and contributory. Who is the contributor and who is the creditor? We should take into consideration? Which creditors we need to take into consideration? They will conduct a meeting within 30 days and they will tell who are the members of advisory committee. So there are hundreds of creditors, there are thousands of contributories are there in the company. Only 12 we need to select. Who should come? That will be decided in the meeting conducted. That meeting shall be conducted within 30 days. For what? To determine the persons who may be the members of advisory committee. Am I clear? Next, advisory committee, what powers they will have? Shall have a right to inspect the books of accounts, document, property, assets at any reasonable time. Am I clear? So main thing, meetings will be conducted, convene the meetings at such intervals as may be required, and the chairperson of advisory committee will be the company liquidator. So to easily understand this is my chart. First listen, later you can write. Advisory committee formed by tribunal. Purpose to give advices and to report to the NCLT on certain matters. Composition, creditors, contributories and other persons. Am I clear? So which creditor and which contributory to form? CL, that means company liquidator, to conduct the meeting within 30 days from the date of winding up to ascertain who shall form the committee. That means many creditors are there, many contributors, but who shall come? He will decide through a meeting conducted within how many days? 30 days from the winding up order. And other persons, everything should not exceed 12. Simple way to understand. Rights, inspect books, documents, assets, properties, etc. Meetings will be conducted as per the rules. Chairperson of audit committee will be the company liquidator. Please copy down. Completed? So we completed the concept of advisory committee and up to here. So 17 sections we completed out of this 50. Okay, out of the 50, 17 sections are completed. There are almost 15 small sections which can be completed in 15 to 20 minutes. Big sections are also there equally. So here we will end up with another lecture, being the second one on this concept of winding up. So winding up chapter la second lecture also we completed with this. Third lecture will be continuing from section number 285, and I am not following a sequence. This is 288, this is 287. Okay, don't follow the sequence. Now we are going to start with, next lecture will start with contributory provisions and contributory provisions. So contributory provisions, there are 18, 19, 20, 21, 4 sections. Like this small sections will also be there in the middle. Okay, so just 1.5 minute sections. Likewise, provisions with regard to company liquidator, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26 will be on that. 27 will be other provisions on winding up. Some big questions, okay, some very small questions will also be there, that we will be completing. Once this is completed up to here, we will be completing 32 questions. Okay, that means from in the next lecture, now 17 questions are completed, 32 sections we will be completing in the next one. That means 18 to 32, another almost 16 sections will be there. Those 16 sections we will completing in the next lecture. Once these 16 sections are completed, the third lecture will also get completed. The remaining sections will be there. So after 32 means another sections, continuing sections, those sections will complete in the next lecture and close this particular issue on winding up chapter. Clear everyone? So this is how we are going to complete this. Thank you.